Hello and welcome to rounds 9 and 10 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. My name's Cameron Vandendung and I'm bringing all of the action for you tonight here at Sandown International Raceway. So no matter where you're watching around the world, around Australia, or even in Lockdown City like I am in Melbourne, please enjoy tonight's action. What a series it's been so far. Dylan O'Keefe has been outstanding. The man with the most amount of wins and the most consistency. He leads this series by 21 points from Ben Bargwanna, the young charger that got the first race win done and hasn't been able to really string it together too much since then, but has been in the mix and well and truly in contention here. John Martin, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. 5 times second places, but never had a race win in the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. He'll be hoping to get the job done here tonight, a track that he loves so much and a place he's had so much success. Big news tonight, Will Brown, our inaugural Car Sales TCR Australian champion. He will not be taking part. Unfortunately, work commitments have seen him out tonight, and we will see him in action when we go back racing again at our next round. So tonight, we do still have that battle in 3 out in front. Jaden Mansley still sort of in contention, but the 3 in front of him would have to have a very bad night if he was going to hook himself right up there. Now, in terms of news that's come out since that last round where we were at Surfers Paradise, Will Brown was stripped of the race win in the first race of the night. That's meant that the race win went to Ben Bargwanna, and right behind him, Chelsea Angelo got herself from 3rd up into 2nd. Now, Lachlan, ladies man Mansell, before I bring you in, mate, I must mention we had this wonderful little piece on the Parked Up podcast, and there was a Facebook piece talking about nicknames in Australian motorsport, nicknames in global motorsport. I feel slighted. I jumped on Facebook. Ladies man is one of the best nicknames going around, and you did not crack a mention. Neither that or your good mate, Knuckles Nolte. What is going on?
Yeah, a bit of a shame that we didn't make it in, but anyway, I'm sure that there were plenty of drivers who have some much better nicknames than that rated a mention above either Knuckles or myself. But yeah, very much looking forward to getting into this event at Sandown. So we're past the halfway point of the Car Sales TCR Sim Racing Series now. And like you said, Cameron, a fair bit of controversy in the previous round up on the Gold Coast, wasn't there, with quite a few incidents and post-race investigations. And I've just counted up the number of post-race penalties that there were in the first race alone up on the Gold Coast. 9 penalties were handed down after that race, and quite controversially, that meant that Will Brown, who crossed the finish line in 1st position, was stripped of that race win. He was relegated back to 4th position, and that allowed Ben Bargwanna to claim his 2nd victory of the season. So the officials have actually sent out a note to all of the drivers in the lead up to this event, just warning them that the driving standards are going to be strictly enforced, and anything that's not in the spirit of the sporting contest, including making contact with other cars or exceeding the track limits, will net you a penalty. So the drivers have been warned, and they're going to have to be on their best behaviour tonight.
So, Lockie, I think in the spirit of nicknames tonight, and I love the update you gave us there, and I know you're feeling a lot more slighted than I am. You know that you've got the best nickname in the business, Ladies Man Mansell. You live up to it too in nature, and I think we've even got a number plate or a sticker done on it, mate. So I think we might give a few of our drivers tonight a nickname. What do you think?
Well, we've already got a couple of drivers who have got nicknames. So Ben Bargwanna is Bargs Jr. I mean, that's a fairly obvious one. Dylan O'Keefe is Spider-Man, and I think we already explained that on air a couple of rounds ago as to how Dylan ended up with that nickname. What other nicknames do we have in the field?
Well, we'll make them up as we go along. 16 minutes remaining in this qualifying session, Lockie, and this is a track. Look at that grandstand, full. That's exactly the way I remember Sandown back in the day at state racing championships. But we're right on board with Vodanovic. A few drivers in this field will love being back racing at Sandown. We're all under curfew at this time of night in Melbourne. It's just after 8 o'clock. So for those viewers in Melbourne, I hope you're tucked up in bed. Tony D'Alberto was talking about it, that it actually hasn't changed his life at all. He's actually tucked up in bed by 8 o'clock every night, and the alarm doesn't go off till after 5. So he actually hasn't even noticed that we've got a curfew in Melbourne. But Vodanovic, he's been thereabouts with his form, hasn't he, so far in the sim racing series? Now, the question mark is over if he can get the job done in qualifying. Probably been his weak point so far. Hasn't been able to mix it with the Ben Bargwannas or the Dylan O'Keefes so far. But in racing form, he's been scintillatingly quick.
He has been, however, he had an absolute shocker up on the Gold Coast, so didn't actually get any points whatsoever out of the Gold Coast event. In fact, I don't think he even participated on the Gold Coast. He's had a couple of second-place race finishes, Peter Vodanovic at Albert Park and at Bathurst, but his strongest results have come in the second races of each of the events that we've had so far, and as we know, they're the reverse grid races. So Peter Vodanovic, he's proven himself to be quite adept at working his way through the traffic in those reverse grid races.
Famous pit lane as we go back to turn 4. Critical corner at Sandown, particularly in these front-wheel drive cars as well. You'd need to get off that corner well because it's a long drag up the hill. And Lockie, then it's a bit of a commitment corner up over the top, the old Gumtree, as it was known, before you fire it down into Dandenong Road. Some of the in real life track adjustments they've made, giving a bit more runoff on the exit there. So that's as it was probably previously. The way it is now, a lot more runoff through that section, which has seen higher speeds and as a result, some much bigger accidents as you make your way down into Dandenong Road. Tricky little section of track there. And then this is the chicane bringing you back onto the main straight. And Lockie, I don't think I've ever seen a crowd that big at the final turn at Sandown. Certainly not since I was a kid.
Let's talk in a bit more detail about the circuit as well, Cameron, because I know that you've had quite a lot of experience at Sandown in state-level motorsport competition, including improved production races and quite a lot of success with race wins as well. So I'm sure you would agree that the key to having a car that goes well around this track is a car that puts its power down well. You need really good traction off those low-speed corners, particularly turn 4 leading onto the back straight and also the final corner leading onto the main straight, because it really is about maximising your exit speed from those corners.
It is an interesting little track, this one, especially trying to keep that speed up, as you mentioned, exactly where they are right now, that final corner. There's a little hump on that ripple strip on the exit, and if you get it in the right spot, you can actually carry the speed through without unsettling the car much. But if you get it wrong, it really unloads or moves the weight around, and the car, you modulate on the throttle, and you just really struggle to get out of there. So it is a technical little circuit in certain ways, but very much a horsepower track. As we watch Ben Bargwanna there, and thank you, Jason Bargwanna, for a number of things, actually. One, keeping us entertained on our SMSs throughout the course of the night, but also listening to, and you mentioned before, Bargs Jr. being the name for Ben Bargwanna, but Bargs, as I heard him in an interview say, this actually Jabba Jr., because Jason Bargwanna's nickname at Gary Rogers Motorsport was Jabba, for his initials JAB.
There you go. That's a new one. I hadn't heard that one before. I'd always just call it Bargs. But
I think it's one of those nicknames that Gary Rogers gives. Everyone else has a nickname, and then it's like Michael Caruso with Robbo, that is very much a Gary Rogers nickname for him. And we continue to watch the clock tick down, nearing the halfway point of our Astron Tech qualifying session. Who will get Astron Tech pole today? Will it be Dylan O'Keefe? And I know you call him Spider-Man. I can't help but call him, there he is on screen, Doc for DOK. And he is on board that beautiful Renault Megane RS that he steers on behalf of Gary Rogers Motorsport. And a big shout out to the team at GRM. We know they always tune in to watch this, and we're looking forward to seeing them hit the track in real life a little later this year, although the news breaking that we will be pushing that back slightly. And Lockie, it was good to hear you talking of all the podcasts and interviews, catching up with Matt Braid recently as well.
Indeed. So on this week's episode of the Checkered Flag Chat podcast, which went online yesterday, I caught up with Matt Braid, the CEO of ARG, the Australian Racing Group, which of course is the company that oversees a lot of motorsport categories, including the TCR Australia Series, but also S5000, the two events at Bathurst, the 6 Hour and the Bathurst International, and a few other categories as well, including the Super 3 Series and the Trans Am Australia Series. So a big shout out to Matt Braid. Good evening to him if he's tuning in. Always a pretty smart move if you've got any sort of career ambitions, I think, Cameron, to give a shout out to the boss.
How much prep did you do? He's had an amazing career in the automotive sector, hasn't he?
He has, and we covered off, in fact, in the podcast, a lot of the background in the time that he spent in the automotive industry, including his time at Holden, and then his move across to Volvo, where, of course, he climbed the corporate ladder very, very quickly and ended up becoming the managing director from 2011 to 2014. So it wasn't just the motorsport stuff that we talked about on the podcast, it was his experience in the wider automotive industry, and he had some fascinating insights about his time working at both of those car manufacturers.
And speaking of manufacturers, I did note that Peugeot Motorsport gave a big shout out to tonight's coverage. So for those of you tuning in through there and love that, Mark, then we welcome you along to tonight's Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. You don't want to run wide on the exit there down at Dandenong Road. That will unsettle your run as well. Under the bridge, there's been many famous sponsors on that bridge as they make their way back around to the final two turns. Geez, there's been some stories there over the years, hasn't there, Lockie, at Sandown? Such a wonderful circuit and one of the oldest when it comes to touring car racing in Australia.
A circuit that's steeped in history, particularly in touring car endurance racing. You think of all the long-distance endurance races that have been held at Sandown over the years for all different types of cars. Peter Brock, I know that people talk about his record at Bathurst, but his vein of form in the Sandown endurance races was equally impressive as well. When you look at all of the 400 and 500 kilometre race victories that he chalked up at Sandown over the years.
It is a wonderful track and unfortunately be lying dormant for at least the next 6 weeks, Lockie, as we all go into lockdown down here in Melbourne. I know you're based in Sydney, enjoying yourself there, and our production team based in Italy, they're enjoying some sunshine at the moment. It's been great to see so much motorsport back, and I know you've been pretty keen on what's happening in the Formula One world and the FIA Formula 3 Championship. And why I mention that is we've got some wonderful talent with history in open wheel racing. Chelsea Angelo spent a fair bit of time in an open wheeler. Tony D'Alberto, another driver that spent his junior days in open wheelers. And when I think open wheelers and Sandown, I can't help but think of Formula Ford. So many wonderful battles here over the years. And normally the Australian Formula Ford Championship used to come down to the wire here at Sandown.
Indeed it did. It was the final round of the championship for a few years, and we had some classic finishes, didn't we? We were talking off-air about the conclusion to the 2004 Australian Formula Ford Championship, where it was David Reynolds and Tim Macro fighting it out right down to the very last race of the season. Not only that, they were both driving for the teams that were considered at that stage very much the powerhouses of the Australian Formula Ford Championship. You had David Reynolds on the Sonic Motor Racing Services side of the fence, and you had Tim Macro driving for Borland Racing Development. So we talk about
those two. Yeah, Lockie, I was going to say those two wonderful teams you mentioned. We still see Sonic around in the Porsche Carrera Cup series, very much a big part of that, and also the junior formulas of it, I guess you'd say, the developmental categories within the Porsche feeder program. But for me, back in the day, they were always like the Karate Kid, weren't they? There was Mr. Miyagi, which was the Mike Ball and Racing Developments, and the Cobra Kai Dojo of Sonic. They just kept on bringing out champions, didn't they, back in the day, Sonic?
And they continue to do so. In fact, if you look at the recent history of the Australian Formula Ford Championship, I think you'll find every champion since 2016 has come out of the Sonic Motor Racing stable. So they've got an illustrious history when it comes to Formula Ford competition. And we talk a lot about Formula Ford as a breeding ground for drivers, but it's also been a breeding ground for some engineering talent. And by way of example, to relate this to TCR, Ash Seawood, who is obviously now the team owner at Ash Seawood Motorsport, actually spent some time at Sonic Motor Racing working as a mechanic and a race engineer. And prior to that, he raced in the Australian Formula Ford Championship in a car that he prepared himself as well. And now, of course, Ash runs a very successful team that's based in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne and running the Alfa Romeo Giulietta for Jay Hansen in the TCR Australia Series.
Just over 5 minutes remaining in qualifying, and as usual, it's the two names at the top there. Dylan O'Keefe sits on provisional pole now with a 111.8. Right behind him, Ben Barguana, a 111.9. They are the only two drivers sub 1 minute 12 at the moment, but John Martin, a 112.042, is not far away. Jaden Ransley, fourth in the series and fourth on our timing charts at the moment as Vidanovic, Shepard, Angelo round out your top seven. Back to Jay Hansen, Tony D'Alberto. We hopefully will not see a rage quit from him tonight. Luke King there in 10th, and Luke King reached out to me today and gave me some more information. He's an impressive guy, isn't he, Luke King? Certainly a professional package, the way he puts it all together. Tim Pulley and Zach Suter there in 12th. And just a reminder, if you are tuning in now, Will Brown unfortunately tied up with work commitments, unable to compete tonight. Now, you mentioned a name before with just under 5 minutes to go. Dave Reynolds, a former Formula Ford champion. A big shout out to him as well. He's now an expecting father. Him and his partner Tahan broke the news recently. I got onto the SMS with him and said, "How are you going with your dad jokes?" And he said, "I've got dad jokes for days, so don't worry about that one, Lockie."
He had dad jokes coming out of his ears well before the prospect of him becoming a father, so I think he's well and truly okay in that department. Just having a look at the Astron Tech pole position scoreboard so far for the TCR Simracing Series, and it's two apiece for Ben Barguana and Dylan O'Keefe. And right now, they're the top two drivers within this qualifying session. John Martin, we talked about the fact that he'd been the bridesmaid in the races. Well, that includes qualifying as well, because John Martin, despite the fact that he's consistently qualified among the front runners, yet to actually take a pole position. He has, however, moved up to sixth position in this session, less than a tenth of a second behind Dylan O'Keefe.
3 minutes 30 remaining. Dylan O'Keefe is quick early on in the session, and the question is John Martin now goes quicker than Ben Barguana. So John Martin moves himself up onto the front row. This is the grid that will be set for round 9 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. Great to see as well Astron Tech and Total around the track, two wonderful sponsors as part of Car Sales TCR Australia Racing. That's turn 4 we exit with John Martin. Critical corner on the track. It's a drag race. Turn 5 is not even a turn. You do not lift, although I've seen a Formula 3 just about take that camera tower out on the left when it took off there one day many years ago. In fact, it would have been one of the first live streams we ever did. I think it must have been getting close to a decade ago now, here at Sandown, as part of what was Shannon's Nationals and is now known as the Shannon's Motorsport Australian Championship.
Once again, I'm amazed at just how close the times are. 1 minute 11.878 for Dylan O'Keefe, 1 minute 11.900 for John Martin. So that's only, 22 thousandths of a second separating positions 1 and 2. And Ben Barguana, 1:11.93. So Ben Barguana less than a tenth of a second slower than our pole sitter. So unbelievably tight times being set by our top three drivers in this session.
That's Ben Barguana. What does the rest of the year hold for him? A bright young talent, spent a little bit of time in Formula Ford, and he's been testing over the weekend in a TCR car. He's got a very bright future though. Young driver. He's been exceptional in sim racing format. And it's been interesting to watch the development of him. He went into XLs, and I know, Lockie, you've been enjoying watching your XL racing and how that category has evolved and developed over the years. And I think he's someone, certainly a young driver to watch for the future.
Indeed, and XL racing is actually a pretty good category to racing if you've got aspirations to race in TCR cars, because it teaches you all about the front-wheel drive handling characteristics, and we've seen some very, very healthy fields in state-level XL competition. I know they had a big state round over in South Australia on the weekend for the Ryan Panovich Memorial Trophy, which our good mate Richard Trail was in attendance there that weekend and involved in sponsoring that event.
Good old Kralsey. 1 minute to go. Ben Barguana, top of the charts, a 1:11.69. He's now the fastest man. He's doing it again right at the final 11th hour of this qualifying session. Could it be Ben Barguana on our Astron Tech pole position? Less than a minute remaining. Dylan O'Keefe still out on track, a couple of tenths away from the time of Ben Barguana. Let's see if he's got anything in store for us. I think he's a little bit away here. John Martin, he doesn't seem to be able to go with him. Up over the top, commitment part of the track. Let the car slide out, down into Dandenong Road corner. Seen some massive incidents there over the years. So we now make our way under the car sales bridge and head back around. 15 seconds remaining. He may well get another lap here, Dylan O'Keefe. But can he go quicker than Ben Barguana? Crosses the line. Hasn't gone quicker, but I believe he's got another lap in him, Dylan O'Keefe. So the checkered flag's been taken by Vodanovic and Ransley. And Chelsea Angelo's through on the checkered flag as well, so she will not go any quicker. This is the opportunity for Dylan O'Keefe. He's been on provisional pole right up until inside the last minute. We look at John Martin here. He's on for a lap. Looks like he's not far away here. Dylan O'Keefe has taken the checkered flag now, it has said to us. And John Martin's been declared to have gone through the checkered flag as well. So that makes your Astron Tech pole position sitter, Ben Barguana. And can he go lights to flag like he did at Albert Park, the very first round of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series? Lockie, your wrap-up of that qualifying session?
Ben Barguana's made a bit of a habit of this, hasn't he? Where he waits until the very dying stages of the session and then punches out an absolute blinder lap time and leaves the rest of the field with no time to respond. We saw him do that at Bathurst as well, so that's his third Astron Tech pole position so far for this series. And it's a valuable extra championship point that he gains on his rival Dylan O'Keefe heading into the first of tonight's two races. So the margin was 21 points between them coming into the round. It's now down to 20 points separating our top two drivers in the standings.
Never far separated, those front three, are they? They have been standouts. They have been the class of our field so far. That sets the grid for round 9 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. And it's Ben Barguana with another pole sitting on the front row alongside Dylan O'Keefe, your series leader. So it's series 1 and 2 in positions 2 and 1 at the moment. And right behind them, John Martin. Great to see Vodanovic just get up and pip Jaden Ransley at the end of that qualifying session as well to get himself onto the outside of row number 2. So the official results are in. It was a good session for our 3 series contenders. And Lockie, ladies man Mansell, you know what time of night it is, round 9. You have not picked a winner yet this year. Will you continue your run of form? Who are you going to put the kiss of death on?
Yeah, Dylan O'Keefe was very unimpressed with me last week when I tipped him and he ended up not winning. I reckon Ben Barguana's full of confidence at the moment, but surely it's time that John Martin broke through. So I'm going to tip John Martin starting from the inside of the second row of the grid for this one.
If he doesn't get up here and gets another second Lockie and makes it 6, I think the Queenslander's going to come down to Sydney hunting you when they open the borders again. Luckily for you, that border has been closed today, and he will not be coming looking for you. But Lockie, the kiss of death is now on John Martin, who'll be starting out at position number 3. Look, Ben Barguana so quick over one lap, but you cannot fault the speed of Dylan O'Keefe when it comes to racing. And the critical element will be this long drag race down to turn number 1. It is a very long, long way to go when you've got that grid, although having a look at it, it's just at pit exit as it stands. Normally the grid for some of the racings is up in front of that pit lane, and at other times for championships and series, we see them down in front of the grandstand as well. But where they are, it is a long, long drag down to turn number 1. Lockie, you've chosen John Martin. Can Chelsea Angela or anyone further on down the order make their way up, do you think?
Well, I'd love to see Chelsea have a good run. She had some tremendous qualifying pace at Surfers Paradise, and we saw that she got to the lead in the first race of the evening, but unfortunately she wasn't able to convert that into victory. So they're good to see her charging up the order. I reckon watch out for Luke King. And the other one who has shown pretty good form in the races, as we mentioned a bit earlier, Jaden Ransley. So I reckon he's shown some pretty good racecraft, so watch for him to make up some spots as well.
Well, hopefully we go back to the racing as we saw it before the last couple of races, because there has been a stern talking to from race officials. Stewards had to pore over the data and the footage long into the night after the last one, as we are now 1 minute away from the race start for round 9 of the Carsales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. All the drivers have been warned. They've been reprimanded. Will Brown did have his race 1 from last week stripped off him. He's not competing tonight due to work commitments. But our front 3 series contenders sit at the front 3 spots of this grid as it stands. The racing should be great here at Sandown. It is a wonderful circuit steeped in history, as Lockie mentioned earlier on. We are 30 seconds away from a race start. Any final thoughts, Lockie?
Final thoughts is I reckon that there might be a bit of pandemonium at turn number 1, just the way the field funnels down into that corner, quite a tight 90-degree left-hander.
Lights now starting to come on. Round 9 of the Carsales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. It's Ben Barguana, Jabba Jr. as he's nicknamed by Gary Rogers, on the front row alongside Dylan O'Keefe. And we're away on the big drag here at Sandown International Raceway, down to turn 1. It was a good start from Ben Barguana. Dylan O'Keefe going with him. John Martin trying to buy himself into the action. But look at that, the front 2 is a little bit of a clip there from Dylan O'Keefe, but Ben Barguana will have the inside into turn number 2. Switch back. There is no way 2 cars can run wide through this section of track. Now the critical turn 4. It's all about getting off the corner well, as we've got Ben Barguana leading from Dylan O'Keefe and John Martin in third. Right behind them, Peter Vodanovic, and I may even break into a horse racing call here, Lockie, seeing as on the infield is a horse racing track. Looking a bit further in the order, it looks like all drivers cleanly through when we head up over the top. Gumtree, critical corner down into Dandenong Road, such a famous corner in Australian motorsport. A little bit of a gap being built now by Ben Barguana, half a second clear of the Renault Megane RS of Dylan O'Keefe, and John Martin, he is right on the hammer, right under the rear wing of Dylan O'Keefe.
Plenty of pressure on at the front, isn't there? And these drivers cannot afford to make any mistakes, similar to what we saw in the opening event at Albert Park, where the top runners were all absolutely nose to tail. A couple of drag races happening a bit further back in the pack. That's Jaden Ransley and Luke King running side by side across the start-finish line, with Luke King staying just ahead, but Ransley pulling to the inside as they negotiate their way down into turn number 1.
It's a fast corner, turn number 1 at Sandown. Deceptive from the outside, but in the car very, very quick, as Dylan O'Keefe now looks an opportunity into turn 4, and that's a very sneaky move if he can get it done. It's going to be a drag race up the hill, but good news for Dylan O'Keefe is he's got the inside line for the very fast corner up over the top of the hill. So if Ben Barguana can hold to the outside, it's not something that many drivers in real life will try and do, but in sim format, why not? Dylan O'Keefe through though. Ben Barguana, he's thinking about the Carsales TCR Australian Sim Racing Series, and points are critical. Dylan O'Keefe now leads from Ben Barguana, John Martin and Peter Vodanovic.
Yeah, that was a good move there from Dylan O'Keefe. He got down the inside at turn number 4 with great traction off that corner, got to the inside, got the overlap, and was able to set up for the move on Barguana heading over Rothman's Rise and down into Dandenong Road corner. Now,
critically, getting the news in from a good friend of ours that always tunes in Sam Stratton, thank you. He's just given us the update that Chelsea switched from red wine to white wine tonight and is a couple of glasses in. Maybe that is going to be able to help her. She was second at the end of race number 1 last time. Will she be on a charge today? Well, she's back in 10th. Maybe switch back to red before the next race, Chelsea.
John Martin just struggling for a bit of speed here at the moment, so he lost third place to Peter Vodanovic, and he's got Jaden Ransley and Luke King just queuing up behind him at the moment, so it could be a case of the commentator's curse striking again. I know that it's still early days at the moment, but maybe John Martin knows something that we don't, and he's just preserving his tyres, but he does seem to be under a fair bit of pressure at the moment.
You've done it again, Lockie. And we'll call it out, and I'll be very quick to tell John Martin about this as Jaden Ransley now hunts the Mobil 1 entry. The Honda from Wall Racing of John Martin. To the fast, very fast final chicane, bringing him back onto the straight here at Sandown in front of the packed grandstand. Great to see so many of them. They have not moved. They are glued to their seats around this very famous, historic racetrack here in the heart of Melbourne. Tell you what, Lockie, if you like, I was going to say, if you like Vietnamese, Lockie, if you like Vietnamese, mate, you can get a very good banh mi just outside the circuit here as well.
I was just going to say, the audience in the grandstand, it reminds me of the crowd that was at Sandown last year when we had the TCR cars and other categories, including the S5000 cars on circuit, as we see O'Keefe and Bargwana starting to pull clear of Ransley and the rest of the field. Just got another text through from Jason Bargwana, and we were talking before about how Ben had that TCR test last weekend. Jason's comment, after Ben's drive on Saturday in the Peugeot, he's been bouncing around like a 5-year-old after a can of Red Bull. great analogy there from Senior.
I did get a very similar message from him, Lockie, and then I said, oh, so it went well then? He said, well, until he beats me. And then it might not be as happy Jason. So still a lot of competitive spirit in Jason Bargwana, father of this man right here, Ben Bargwana. And he hunts now Dylan O'Keefe that took that race lead away from him. 6/10 the gap. Tyre management will be critical. 18 laps the journey here. We're on lap 5 of 18. It's about smooth laps, consistent laps. Make sure you keep a bit of car underneath you. We hear from Dylan after our 4 different interviews we've had after his 4 wins so far this year. As he said, what's keeping him motivated at the moment to get race wins is to get at least 1 race win at every track we go to throughout our sim racing series. And Ben Bargwana will be hoping to take that race win away from him. But Dylan O'Keefe, when you speak to him, you just hear how much he thinks about it, doesn't he, Lockie? He just prepares plans, tries to keep the car underneath him. There's no good blazing off up the road by 20, 30 seconds if they're going to catch you at the end. So Dylan O'Keefe, a very intelligent race car driver.
Indeed he is, and while we've been in the lockdown situation with not a lot of motor racing happening, Cameron, Dylan's also been studying for his helicopter pilot's licence. And I'm not sure about you, but if I'm going up in a helicopter, I want to make sure that the pilot who's flying the thing is thinking very carefully and clearly about what he's doing, that's for sure.
So you wouldn't come up with me if I became a helicopter pilot then, Lockie?
You're probably... I can think of worse people to go up in a helicopter with, let's put it that way.
And while you say that, a big shout out to our mate Knuckles, who's up in Darwin at the moment, and I believe he's on to his 10th Darwin Tawley. So I had a good chat to Matt Nolte, who will be one of our series commentators when we hit Channel 7 later this year. Big shout out to Knuckles. I know he's enjoying the sunshine of Darwin. Look at that, Jay Hansen right into the back of Vodanovic, but he gets out of it. That was smart. We don't want to turn him around at this point in the race. Jay Hansen getting racy now in position number 7.
This is a pretty hot contest between these two drivers. They've swapped positions backwards and forwards a couple of times, and Jay Hansen's still only very, very young. He got a race win in the final round of the Australian Formula Ford Championship last year. Decided to make the step up to TCR for this season in the same Alfa Romeo that Dylan O'Keefe had so many race victories in last year. And Hansen, heading into the second last corner, looks back down the inside of Vodanovic, but that can sometimes put you in a pretty awkward position for the next left-hander, which leads you onto the straight. It is spicing up here. Well picked, Lockie. Zach Suter now through.
We missed Zach Suter at one of our race events so far in the sim racing series, as he made a dash to the border to get some testing in. Oh, Ransley hip and shoulders him off at the exit of turn 1. If he can stay there though, and he can't, so he drops back and gets hip and shouldered again, unfortunately. And that looks like Chelsea Angelo has muscled her way through.
Something's happened to John Martin here as well, because he's fallen all the way back to 11th position, Cameron. So we saw that he was up in that 4th, 5th battle, wasn't he, with Danovich and Luke King and Rowan Shepard, but he's fallen all the way back to 11th position. So not such a good opening race tonight for John Martin.
And I wonder why that is, Lockie, is another big moment down there into Dandenong Road corner. Was that Chelsea Angelo that got offloaded? Jay Hanson's now been offloaded into the wall as well, and it looks like that stern talking to from our race officials has worked, Lockie. Not.
They are racing drivers after all, and when the red mist descends, you know that the competitive juices are going to flow and the action is going to unfold. But they do need to drive with their brains a bit here, these guys, because with all of this ferocious battling for track position, all they're doing is they're costing each other time and allowing the leaders to pull away.
Dylan O'Keefe, your race leader. Good gap now, 1.4 seconds between himself and Ben Barguana. Now remember, Dylan O'Keefe, 4 race wins for the year. Ben Barguana with 2 race wins for the year. 20 points, as Lockie pointed out. The difference between them, they came into this weekend with 21 points, or I should say this event with 21 points between them. But Ben Barguana just has the edge on Dylan O'Keefe in qualifying trim. He still chases 1.3 seconds behind Dylan O'Keefe, and that gap looks like it's being well and truly managed by Dylan as we approach the halfway point of round 9 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series, with thanks to our friends at Total and Astrontech.
The difference between first and second position in terms of the number of points that are awarded is 5 points, so it's 40 points for a race victory, 35 points for second, so O'Keefe on target to extend his championship lead if positions stay as they are at the moment. And you touched before, Cameron, on the subject of tyre management. This track, Sandown, is probably not quite as tyre sensitive as some of the other venues that we've been to, like Sydney Motorsport Park, for example, but it is still something the drivers will have to think about. And I remember we were talking before in one of our interviews with Dylan O'Keefe about the fact that one of the settings that the drivers can actually adjust with the Assetto Corsa platform that we use for this series is tyre pressures. So the way that the drivers configure their tyre pressures before each race to make sure that the cars are not too slow in the early stages, but also that the tyres don't heat up and go off late in the race. It is actually pretty important, and it's one of the things that the drivers will have been working on throughout the practice sessions in the lead up to tonight.
Now, while you're very much correct when it comes to a lateral grip and even also surface in terms of coarseness, what you do find at Sandown in real life in particular is if you're a bit heavy on that right foot, Lockie, you can light up the tyres, the front wheel drive in this case of the TCR cars, light it up and you can really overheat those tyres as well. So throttle patience at Sandown in particular, critical.
And I know that one of the things that you have to try and do, and this probably comes back to the bit of racing experience that I've had in a Hyundai Excel, is before you get on the throttle 100%, you want the front wheels to be as straight as possible, because they do sometimes have a bit of a tendency to unload the inside front wheel and it can just spin up, and that means that number one, you are wearing out the tyre, and number two, you're not getting as much traction as what you need. As we said, that Jay Hanson is on the attack here on the back of Zach Suter, heading onto the back straight, right in the slipstream. Suter comes to the inside. Hanson's going to go to the outside as they head up to the end of the back straight into Rothman's Rise. We've seen some spectacular moves over here over the course of over the years, and it looks like Hanson's pulled it off. Great move around the outside for Jay Hanson to pick up that position.
And John Martin's found his way back into the rear view mirror of Zach Suter. So John Martin, after whatever happened to him early on in this race, we didn't see it. He started in position number 3, and Lockie, you gave him the curse, which you've been doing event after event this year. I'm really starting to actually enjoy this semi-black humour of mine, Lockie. But I don't think you have actually tipped a driver that has had a good race yet.
Well, I noticed that you've shied away from putting in any tips on any drivers, Cameron, so I reckon for the second of tonight's races, we need to get you to put in a fearless prediction as well and see if you can go any better in the tipping stakes.
No, I'm hosting this coverage, Lockie, and therefore you are the one that will be tipping as we continue on a lap 11 of 18. And we look now at Rowan Shepard. He's had some form throughout this year, sits inside the top 5 now as well. And you did mention, I'll give you credit where credit's due, to watch out for Luke King. And Lockie, he's inside the top 4.
Yeah, so experienced Luke King when it comes to racecraft, and so versatile as well. We've seen that he's had lots of success in lots of different categories, and he's one of the drivers who has scored a race win in the car sales TCR Simracing Series. He was victorious in the second of the Bathurst races, where he put in a stunning charge to drive his way up to the front of the field, and even survived a couple of shunts over the top of the mountain to pick up the race win.
And just a quick message for you as well, Lockie. Jason Bargwanna has refused to allow you to pick Ben for the next race, all right? So you are now sworn off. Otherwise, you will have a very grumpy Jason Bargwanna hunting you down, as well as John Martin. So Dylan O'Keefe leads from Ben Bargwanna, who Lockie will not pick in round 10 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. Jaden Ransley in 3rd, Luke King in 4th, Rowan Shepard in 5th, Timperley 6th, Vodanovic in 7th, Hansen 8th, Suter 9th, Martin in 10th, and Tony D'Alberto, he's having a mare of a night.
Yeah, not been a great night for Tony D'Alberto, but keep in mind that the second race is reverse grid, so provided he can stay on the racetrack and get classified as a finisher, he could be well positioned to start from a pretty handy position for the next race. I just said that I'd have a very grumpy Jason Bargwanna asked me if I tipped Ben for the next race. That's an oxymoron, isn't it? I don't think there is any such thing as a very grumpy Jason Bargwanna.
Oh, we all know there very much. Oh, well, there was a moment there. Who was that? Was that Chelsea Angelo? That looked like Chelsea Angelo in the fence back there.
I think it was, because she's actually gone down a lap, so she's parked in a very awkward position there, just on the right-hand side of the circuit between turns 3 and 4.
Well, at least Tony D'Alberto's been able to pass someone so far.
Hopefully Chelsea can get that car going. It's actually in a pretty awkward spot, because it's just to the right of where the racing line is. We don't actually have safety cars on the Assetto Corsa platform, but if we did, you would have to say that her car's in a position that would trigger a safety car intervention.
Very much so, Lockie, very much so. Now, we look again at Rowan Shepard chasing after Luke King. This is the battle over 4th place at the moment. Luke King has found his natural level in this race at the moment. It's all about holding on from Rowan Shepard. Down the main straight here at Sandown. Past the famous grandstand. The thundering sound of TCR cars making their way round Sandown for another lap. Lap 14 of 18. So many different cars, so many different manufacturers. It's becoming such a popular form of motorsport all over the world. And we say a big hello to our viewers, no matter where you are, around Australia, New Zealand. We've got a lot of New Zealand viewers as well, Lockie. It's a bit later for them, a couple of hours past us here in Australia. But thank you to them for staying up and cheering on your heroes. Plenty of Kiwis in this race.
They will be cheering on the likes of Jaden Ransley and Rowan Shepard, the Kiwi drivers. And Rowan Shepard, he's been a bit of a quiet achiever, hasn't he, in this series? He hasn't had any race victories so far, but he's always just sort of been quietly and consistently accumulating points in the background. Best race result for him in 3rd position in the second of the Bathurst races, and on for another good top 5 result in this particular race if he can stay where he is at the moment. You're talking about the different manufacturers, Cameron, and we do have very good manufacturer representation in TCR Australia. We saw last year it was Hyundai that was victorious in the championship in the hands of Will Brown. We've seen that Alfa Romeo has had success as well. Renault, of course, with Gary Rogers Motorsport. Dylan O'Keefe and James Moffat will be driving the Reynolds when we get the real life TCR series underway. The other French manufacturer Peugeot in the field as well, Honda, and some reports that there are going to be some other TCR manufacturers becoming involved, and it'll be interesting to see if any of those manufacturers make it down under. I know that Mazda are working on a Mazda 3 TCR car. Very much looking forward to seeing that on the track at some point.
Isn't that a beautiful car as well? Some of the shots that have been put out for that Mazda, I think that will be one of the most attractive cars on the grid. But then again, they're all great looking cars as Ben Bargwanna edges ever closer now. He's inside a second off the back of Dylan O'Keefe, so he's been saving his tyres and he's ready to pounce. Inside, 2 laps to go. We go back to Timperley, he's on his own. This is the battle at 4th place with Luke King leading from Rowan Shepard. Down into turn number 4. So King under all sorts of pressure now from Rowan Shepard. They'll finish turn 4, head on up the back straight. The gap still levels out up the front, 1 second between O'Keefe and Bargwanna. This is the closest battle of all, 0.3 seconds at the moment. Fighting for the first step off the podium are Rowan Shepard and Luke King. Luke King, a driver who's been so successful in so many different categories, probably most recently known to our viewers in Toyota 86 racing. And he's under immense pressure now from Rowan Shepard.
What we're starting to get here, Cameron, is a bit of a feel for the drivers and the cars that have looked after their tyres well, and I reckon that Rowan Shepard might just have a bit more tyre grip at his disposal at the moment compared to Luke King. So, as you've said before, it's all about maximising those exits from the slower corners and setting up for an overtaking manoeuvre under brakes. So you can see Luke King starting to cover, having to take a defensive line into turn number 1. He was a bit slow at the apex there through the first corner, and that has allowed Rowan Shepard to close right in through turn number 4. Luke King using all of the ripple strip on the exit there to make sure that he maximises his drive out of the corner, and Rowan Shepard tucking into the slipstream.
This round 9 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series starts to wind down. We continue to watch this battle between 4th and 5th. Up the front, though, only 0.7 of a second as we see Rowan Shepard run wide. That'll give a bit of breathing space to Luke King. But up the front, the battle, here it is. This is exactly what we've been looking for. We'll have 1 lap remaining. We begin our final lap here. Dylan O'Keefe leading from Ben Bargwanna, and Ben Bargwanna waiting to pounce now. They start the final lap. Where will he get it done? It's not easy to pass at Sandown. An opportunity's turn 1, that's gone. Not easy to pass through turns 2, 3 and 4. It'll have to be down to Dandenong Road if he's going to get a chance. Not close enough into turn 4. It's about the exit, Ben Bargwanna. He runs a bit wide on the exit there. That's going to give it to Dylan O'Keefe. Through turn 5. O'Keefe's got the good run here. And a nice healthy gap. Nearly out to a second. Just a slight bobble on the exit of turn number 4, and that's given enough breathing space to Dylan O'Keefe. He's won at every racetrack we've been to. Critical stopping point down into Dandenong Road corner. Ben Bargwanna, the last of the late breakers, tries to catch up. Dylan O'Keefe, only a couple of corners to go now. Can Ben Bargwanna get it done? Round 9, Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. Your series leader leads this race through the final corner. Ben Bargwanna needs to get a run here. Dylan O'Keefe, he makes it 5 wins from 5 tracks, winning round 9 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. And DOK, your prize, another interview with me at the end of it. I am very sorry about that, but you'll be very happy to extend your lead in the Car Sales TCR Australian Sim Racing Series. And Ben Bargwanna, another healthy points haul, keeping himself well and truly in contention here.
High quality race between those two, wasn't it? And Ben Bargwanna put the pressure on Dylan O'Keefe there in those last couple of laps, and Dylan O'Keefe could not afford to make even the slightest mistake, but he kept it smooth, he kept it clean, he kept it fast, and he gets rewarded with another race victory. So very, very well done to both of those drivers. Jaden Ransley comes home in third position. That's actually the third place finish that Jaden Ransley's had, equaling the best result that he's achieved so far in this series. And then just having a look, did Rowan Shepard get ahead of Luke King? He did. So Rowan Shepard finishing up in fourth position there, bumping Luke King down to fifth position on what must have been the final lap of the race.
Now, Lockie, this will be recorded. John Martin can watch back. Have you got anything to say to John Martin, who finished back in 8th position?
Oh, sorry? I mean, what else can I say? Actually, speaking of that, so apart from the text message that I've had from Ben Bargwana requesting that I don't, from Jason, sorry, requesting that I don't tip Ben Bargwana, I've also now got a text message in from Chris O'Keefe, which is Dylan's dad, who's tuning into the coverage, kindly asking me not to tip Dylan either.
Lockie, you're making friends and influencing people all over Australia at the moment as well. I'm looking forward to your next tip. Great to be back in the studio. Remember, we've got one more race this evening, round 10 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series here at Sandown International Raceway, a track that we love so much here in Australian motorsport. 2 more events to go in the series, and we've enjoyed your company so far throughout. Next, we head to Adelaide Parklands, a track that I love and I know you love too, Lockie Mansell. And finally, the last round, or the last event of our series, we head over to Macau. So we've been in Australia up to that point, and then we head off to that famous track at Macau, well known for its F3 race and becoming extremely well known for its TCR race as well. The official results are in. Dylan O'Keefe wins again at another track 5 times so far this year for Dylan O'Keefe after Ben Bargwana sat on Astron Tech pole. We flipped the grid though, we flipped the script, and Lockie Mansell, here we go. It's time for your tip.
Well, I am the ladies' man, so I have to tip the girl racer at least once in this series, don't I? And she is starting this one from pole position, so I'm going to go with Chelsea Angelo for this one.
And I believe she was 3 white wines in before we even got that last one underway. And after a terrible result for her, I wonder how many white wines we're into now.
In simulator racing, does it actually improve your driving technique? I wonder. Obviously,
well,
this is the
question I asked.
In real life, but on the sim, not sure.
Well, she gave it a nudge last one at Surfers and got herself up into second at the end of the first race at Surfers Paradise, and the wheels fell off literally and figuratively for her in the second race of that evening. Our grid is now set, though, and Tony D'Alberto, what a shocker he had in that last race as well. He was beaten by everybody, including the bloke on his way to the donut van as well. He had Tony D'Alberto covered. So TD, hoping for some big things for him later on in this race. Chelsea Angelo will move herself up to the front of the order. And remember, Dylan O'Keefe will be starting on the last row of the grid alongside Ben Bargwana. And one of the hallmarks of Dylan O'Keefe so far this season has been the way he cuts his way through the field. And Lockie Mansell, I know you're not allowed to tip him and you can't tip Ben Bargwana, but there's something for us to look forward to ahead of round number 10 of the Sim Racing Series.
Well, one of the things we've not seen yet at any of our events in the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series is a double race winner. So we haven't yet seen a driver win race number 1 and then come through from the back of the grid to win race number 2. In fact, just looking back at the results, the best that we've seen was at Albert Park, where Dylan O'Keefe came 3rd in race 1 and then 1st in race 2. And in fact, he's the only driver so far, Dylan O'Keefe, that's managed to record like a first place and another top 3 result in 2 races of an event. We've seen John Martin record 2nd place finishes in 2 races as well. He did that at Sydney Motorsport Park. But there is some history up for grabs for Dylan O'Keefe if he can charge through from the rear of the field to pick up the win in the second of tonight's races.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I'm also wondering if we can see some form and, again, more battling going on between Rowan Shepard and Luke King. What a battle that was. And Rowan Shepard getting through on that final lap from Luke King. although he did shortcut up over the top of the hill. So we'll keep an eye out for the stewards' report at the end of round number 9. That'll come out over the course of the next week once they've reviewed it. So we're inside about a minute away, I should say, from the start of our final race of the evening. And a big shout out to everybody tuning in from around the world. Again, I mentioned Peugeot Motorsport that's tweeted out about tonight's event. So if you've come to us through that link, through that tweet, we welcome you. And Lockie, as we look to get set for this race as well, you mentioned all the manufacturers. I had it reminded to me in an SMS just then that even Toyota's having a good close look at it. The boss of Toyota South America, very keen to get a Corolla into the series.
We know that Corollas, with their reputation for reliability in particular, would certainly be very, very solid and competitive vehicles to drive in a category like the TCR Australia Series. But it looks like we're just about ready for a start, Cameron.
Lights about to go on for the last race of the evening, the final race here at Sandown International Raceway. Round 10 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Series Sim Racing Series is away. And this is the reverse grid. Chelsea Angelo starts on the front row with Zach Suter as they run down to turn number 1. Vodanovic there alongside Chelsea Angelo. Got the inside through turn number 1. Lets it run wide, pushing Zach Suter out of the way. Suter, is he able to get alongside? No. Chelsea Angelo's clear through turn 2, 3. Look for potential carnage in the background as Jaden Ransley is pushed to the inside of turn number 3. John Martin right on the rear there of Tony D'Alberto. They're battling over 4th spot at the moment. And Vodanovic in the mix here. As now John Martin looks to the outside of Tony D'Alberto, and he'll have the run and the inside line up over the top. In fact, he's already got the job done at this part of the circuit. We are watching out for Ben Bargwanna and Dylan O'Keefe at the back of the grid. There is John Martin. Makes his way down to Dandenong Road corner as that sacked Zach Suter running wide down into Dandenong Road corner, allowing Peter Vodanovic through.
Oh, and a bit of chaos on the exit of Dandenong Road corner as Zach Suter rejoined the racetrack right in front of this storming pack of cars. They're 3 wide heading into the second to last corner, and John Martin gets a tap from the back. He's going to lose a couple more positions as they exit the final turn for the run onto the main straight. But Chelsea Angelo doing exactly what she needed to do, taking advantage of the clear track from pole position to build up a handy lead over the rest of the field.
Right on board with Ben Bargwanna. He's through now on Jaden Ransley. Moves himself up into 9th place. Next car up the order, John Martin just in front of him. If he can continue on his merry way. Behind him, Dylan O'Keefe. He's making hard work of getting through this field. It looks like he's okay. Is that Jaden Ransley back into the path of Dylan O'Keefe? No, Dylan O'Keefe through. And he will follow Ben Bargwanna up the hill, trying to make their way through a very long race ahead of us. We're only on lap 2 of 18. And Chelsea Angelo leads from Vodanovic. And Tony D'Alberto, happy to see him inside the top 3. And right behind him, Zach Suter, who started on the front row but has been shuffled back very quickly into 4th.
John Martin on a big charge at the moment, and once again a bit of contact on the exit of Dandenong Road corner. Looks like it might have been Brock Timperley getting into a bit of a tangle, and we've got contact on the exit of the final corner here. That's Luke King copping a tap from behind. That was Jay Hansen that got into the back of Luke King's VW Golf coming out of the final turn. And it will be the Alfa Romeo versus the Volkswagen in a drag race down the main straight between those cars. And it's on behind them as well, with Bargwanna ranging up on the outside of Timperley. Going to Luke King hang tough around the outside of Jay Hansen? Not quite. Oh, yes, he can actually. He holds on to that position as they head into turn 2. So great racecraft there from Luke King to fend off that attack from young Jay Hansen.
Jay Hansen does not mind throwing elbows, does he, Lockie? And I think he realised after giving a bit of a hip and shoulder to Luke King through turn 1, he was going to receive the same thing back at turn 2. So he aborted that attempt as Chelsea Angelo holds off the hard-charging Vodanovic here. Into Dandenong Road corner, she parks her car right in the centre of the corner, giving no room for Vodanovic. Vodanovic now looks to the inside. She left the door open there. But you do need a nice wide sweeping access into this final chicane and back onto the straight again. Turn 1's a better opportunity as Tony D'Alberto sits back watching the battle in front, waiting to pounce, waiting for his opportunity. And speaking of opportunities, Vodanovic, this is the 90% move here at Sandown. And that's the big stop down into turn 1. If you can get the inside run, as Vodanovic has, it'll be your corner.
Runs a bit wide on the exit though, the move not quite done yet as Chelsea Angelo fights back on the outside into turn 2 but has to slot back into second. There was another car in the background there running very, very wide out through the grass on the exit of turn 1.
It's not done yet, but Tony D'Alberto, as a result of the fighting between the cars up in front, has bought himself a ticket to a potential race win. Ben Barguana now, further back down the order. He's chasing Brock Timperley. Jay Hansen looking for a way through. Dylan O'Keefe coming with him, letting Ben Barguana do all the hard work of muscling his way through the pack. So Ben Barguana hot on the heels of Timperley as Jaden Ransley yet again cops another hit. And it looked like John Martin was involved in that one as John Martin goes right to the back. And there's Dylan O'Keefe right behind Ben Barguana again. They'll get this job done down into turn 1, I'd imagine. Plenty of racing to go, Lockie Mansell.
You can see, can't you, that Dylan O'Keefe's being quite conservative with where he places the car and not taking any risks when it comes to making overtaking manoeuvres. He has definitely got the championship on his mind.
We continue to watch Ben Barguana make his way through the field. Hasn't been able to get the job done on Timperley just yet. And Dylan O'Keefe starting to get a bit frustrated, wanting more and more points. But really, as you mentioned, with the series on the line here, all that Dylan O'Keefe has to do here is stick very close to Ben Barguana, because right behind them, John Martin, who's third in the series, is behind both cars. So this is playing well into the hands of Dylan O'Keefe. Smart driving from Spider-Man.
Ben Barguana gives Brock Timperley a bit of a rub on the exit of Dandenong Road corner, but he's going to be on the wrong side of the track when they get to the next right-hander. Second and last corner. If he can stay there, it'll put him on the inside for the final corner, but it's just a bit awkward there, and you can see that a few cars make nose-to-tail contacts. That's going to compromise a few drivers for their run onto the main straight. Look at Jaden Ransley looking for the opportunity to get down the inside of Ben Barguana as well. Barguana got a slow exit because of that nose-to-tail contacts that he had with Brock Timperley. And it's going to be Barguana that loses at least 1, possibly 2 positions because he goes off the road at turn 1.
And Dylan O'Keefe, the big winner there as well. Did you see the inside move? And that was Jaden Ransley into the fence as they approached turn 4. So the exit of turn 3 into turn 4. We saw Jaden Ransley, I'm pretty sure that was him that went into the fence, and he'll drop right down the order. Up the front though, well, actually no, we stay with this battle here as Chelsea Angelo gets offloaded by Tony D'Alberto, and Zach Suter will go through, Luke King will go through as well, and Jay Hansen may well get Chelsea Angelo. In fact, he does as she runs wide on the exit of Dandenong Road corner.
Oh dear. It was looking so good for Chelsea Angelo after lap 1.
So, Lockie, who did you tip again, just as a reminder for me, please?
Yes, I tipped Chelsea Angelo for this race. So, yes, my 100% success rate for the commentator's curse is well and truly alive.
We're right on board with Jay Hansen, looking back at Luke King behind him. And Luke King ranging up now, down into turn 1, under the car sales bridge, heading towards turns 2, 3 and 4.
Oh, Dylan O'Keefe.
That was Dylan O'Keefe, yeah.
Yeah, all 4 wheels off the racetrack at turn 1. Can't afford to make too many of those mistakes. He needs to regain his composure. Bit of a blessing, I think, there for Dylan O'Keefe that the cars behind him, Ben Barguana and John Martin, were battling quite hard among themselves. Otherwise, O'Keefe could have lost a few positions as a result of that mistake.
Oh no, big contact there. Geez, we've seen some big crashes there over the years, haven't we? And that is another one. And John Martin's night goes from bad to worse.
John Martin involved, and Rowan Shepard involved in that one as well, Cameron. And we've seen that having cars running 2x2 through there, it's always a high-risk manoeuvre, and often it can end in tears, and that's exactly what's happened for both of those drivers. So
that would normally result in a visit to the medical centre. In this case, they'll be licking their virtual wounds and heading back to the pit lane for both of those drivers. We look to the front of the field now. Again, that's Zach Suter there in third place, chasing down Tony D'Alberto, and I'll pass over to you now, Lockie.
I was just going to make the comment that in normal circumstances on this particular configuration of the Sandown track, that would also result in a red flag and a stoppage of at least half an hour or 3/4 of an hour to repair the arm code there as well.
Luke King now short-cutting down into Dandenong Road corner as well. So he runs wide on the exit there. Now, Luke King, he's in 5th place, chasing down Jay Hansen. In terms of our series contenders, that's Luke King you've got on screen there. Dylan O'Keefe still sits back in 8th. They cannot get past Timperley. Timperley has held our 2 series contenders well and truly at bay here, with Dylan O'Keefe in 8th and Ben Barguana in 9th. John Martin, well, he's headed home already. He's hit the showers.
And here comes Brock Timperley down the inside of Chelsea Angelo into turn number 1. Angelo leaves him space and he will gain that position. So he'd done a good job, Brock Timperley, to fend off the attacks from the series contenders. He was able to pull some breathing space over them once they started to battle amongst themselves. And now he's got the speed to slide past Angelo.
Yeah, Brock Timperley would be very happy. Be very happy to slide inside Chelsea Angelo there and move inside the top 6.
And that's another spot lost there for Chelsea Angelo. It might be another 2 spots lost it is, because both Dylan O'Keefe and Ben Barguana go through, heading down the hill into Dandenong Road corner. So, unfortunately for Angelo, her pace has dropped away in the latter stages of this race. So, another interesting stat, Cameron, is that we're yet to have one of our New Zealand drivers score a race victory in the Car Sales TCR Australia Simracing Series. The best result that we've seen for the Kiwi driver so far is Jaden Ransley, who, as mentioned previously, has had some 3rd place race finishes, and Rowan Shepard has had a top 3 race result. Peter Vodanovic actually has had a couple of 2nd place race finishes earlier in the season as well, but yet to get a race win. So if Vodanovic can hold on and take victory tonight, they're the first race victory for a Kiwi.
Let's not count those chickens before they've hatched. Big move, Jay Hansen into the back of Zach Suter there. Jay Hansen, he is in everything every week, and that one will get looked at, because he shifted Zach Suter out of the way, and Jay Hansen now moves himself up onto the podium. We'll see how this one plays out. So what I was going to say, though, with Vodanovic out in the lead, I'll just take you back to Albert Park, and he was leading right up until those last 2 laps, and Dylan O'Keefe saw him off at turn 1. Well, Dylan O'Keefe didn't see him off. Vodanovic did that himself and allowed Dylan O'Keefe to get his first win of the year at Albert Park. As we look at Tony D'Alberto now, geez, he'll be much happier with this result running inside the top 2. Great to see for TD.
Yeah, after what's been a really tough campaign for him so far, good to see that some fortune is finally smiling down on Tony D, provided, of course, that he can hold it on for the final 8 laps of this race.
So Dylan O'Keefe, there he is, still chasing down Brock Timperley. Has not been able to find a way past just yet, but Timperley's hooked onto the back of Luke King now. And all the battling that's been going on between Hansen, Suter and King has really brought Dylan O'Keefe back into this one. Plenty of race left here, Lockie, if O'Keefe can clear Timperley. Now, King, he's getting a bit ragged out there as he chases down Zach Suter. I still think there's a question mark over Jay Hansen for that move on Suter, but that won't play out until after this race. Now we ride on board with Luke King. He's going to have to defend from Brock Timperley. Timperley right under that rear wing. And he's been offloaded there, Luke King. And that would have been the helping hand from Brock Timperley. And down at turn 1, that is the end of Luke King's race. He will not play any part in a result here.
And no doubt that's one that the officials will be having a look at as well, Cameron, because that was fairly clear. Nose-to-tail contacts between both of those cars in the braking zone for turn number one. The big beneficiaries of that were Dylan O'Keefe and Ben Bargwanna, who were both able to move on through.
So there he is, Ben Bargwanna, second in the series at the moment. Had a wonderful test in real life last weekend. He's been one of our formed drivers throughout the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. And my phone is blowing up, Lockie, at the moment with people telling me just how bad you are at tipping Sim Racing Series results. Certainly for this one anyway. I know you've turned your attention and really pivoted into the sim racing world. But Lockie, it's not going well for you.
Jason Bargwanna's just asked if I can pick 34 numbers for next week's lotto because they will back the other 6 numbers that I don't choose.
Very good, Bargs. Well done. As Vodanovic heads on up the back straight, up the hill towards Gumtree. Hasn't been a Gumtree there for quite some time though, Lockie. As Dylan O'Keefe now into the top 5. You'll be happy with the work that was done by Tim Pulley on his other competitor in Luke King, and that's put them through. And DOK now, he's an outside chance of the podium here, Lockie. He's 0.6 of a second off the back of Zach Suter. There is the gap right now. Ben Bargwanna going with him, and Jay Hansen not that far up the road either, as Zach Suter is all over the shop down into Dandenong Road. And that'll allow Dylan O'Keefe to get a run on him here. Oh, and he's through. Dylan O'Keefe should be through. Had to back out of it slightly. Zach Suter all over the place. DOK hangs to the outside. That'll give him the inside of the final turn. And he's through. Now Ben Bargwanna will tuck up under the rear wing of Zach Suter. And Dylan O'Keefe is now 1 step off the podium. It doesn't matter how bad a race he's having, Dylan O'Keefe always manages a result.
Well, track position was an issue for him and Ben Bargwanna earlier in the race. It has taken them a while to round up some of those slower cars, but now that they've got a bit more open track to work with, they can really start to stretch the legs and exploit the speed that we know that they both have. So he's a fair way behind the next car, Dylan O'Keefe, the car of Jay Hansen, but he does have 4.5 laps. Put his head down and punch out the faster lap times that we know that he's capable of, and he's going to bring Ben Bargwanna along for the ride with him as well. So let's see if these two title combatants can make a last-ditch challenge for the podium.
Well, the opportunity they've got here is Jay Hansen doesn't mind throwing elbows. And if Tony D'Alberto drops off much in pace, Hansen will be right alongside him. And only 3 seconds behind them, and it's now 2.6, 2.5. So Dylan O'Keefe already taking big chunks of time out of Jay Hansen. But any argy-bargy between these two over second place, and you watch Dylan O'Keefe and Ben Bargwanna pounce. They will be well and truly looking for a podium, both of them.
Mind you, catching up to Jay Hansen will be one thing, but getting past him will be another thing altogether, because we've seen that Jay Hansen's been pretty robust in his defence in some of the other races as well. So even if O'Keefe and Bargwanna can catch up to Hansen, it's no guarantee that he'll be an easy drive to get past.
Robust is an understatement, Lockie. I'll be honest, he has been downright ruthless in his defence. As we look now at Hansen and D'Alberto. D'Alberto takes the inside line, Hansen sweeps around the outside, and that's a nice clean overtake there for Jay Hansen. And again, ever closer now. Dylan O'Keefe, he was 3.4 or 3 seconds off the pace before, 1.9 now. The gap between Dylan O'Keefe and Tony D'Alberto. And as you mentioned, Ben Bargwanna tucked right under that rear wing of Dylan O'Keefe.
He only just got that move done there, Jay Hansen, on Tony D'Alberto. He turned across the front of D'Alberto at the last minute. And I'll tell you what, he was lucky there was not an overlap between the two cars, because if there had been, they probably both would have ended up in the fence in similar fashion to what we saw with John Martin and Rowan Shepard a bit earlier on. But now it's D'Alberto. Can he hold on to this final spot on the podium? 3 laps to go. And he's got the two title contenders, Dylan O'Keefe and Ben Bargwanna, setting some extremely fast lap times behind. as they both try and push their way up into the top three.
So we look now, Lockie, to Tony D'Alberto. Can he fight back again against Jay Hansen, or has the car just disappeared out from underneath him? Oh, Jay Hansen now. He's run very wide down into Dandenong Road corner, and Tony D'Alberto will smell blood in the water, and he's after him as Ben Barguana looks now to put a move on Dylan O'Keefe. It's lap 16 of 18. The laps count down. Barguana has a sneaky look to the inside of Dylan O'Keefe. Tony D'Alberto looming large in the mirrors of Jay Hansen. Vodanovic, he's 7.4 seconds up the road. Barring a catastrophe, Vodanovic will have this race. It's nearly 10 seconds now, the gap out in front. As we continue to watch the battle over second and also over fourth place. Ben Barguana looking to move through on Dylan O'Keefe at the moment. This is for series points. As Tipperley also starts to, and Siri's gone off in my house, I can tell you, just listening to what I'm talking about. Ben Barguana now onto the back of Dylan O'Keefe. We are inside the final 2 laps, Lockie. And don't get too serious, or every device in your house that's Apple will start to tick off like it just did at mine.
Activating Siri by accident. Gotta love technology, that's for sure. But it's shaping up to be a blockbuster finish here in the battle for second position. Hansen, D'Alberto, O'Keefe, Barguana, all absolutely nose to tail as they head out of Dandenong Road corner for what will be the second to last time. And I'll tell you what, there's a collision involving these cars. Zach Souter is not that far behind, so he could be in a position to pounce as well. But it's Jay Hansen just ahead of D'Alberto. O'Keefe, Barguana, all looking to get the slipstream off one another as they head down the main straight.
It's on here, Lockie, on the last lap of round 10 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. Jay Hansen covers off of Tony D'Alberto. Dylan O'Keefe gets into the side. He took up too much curb on the apex there at turn number 1. So Dylan O'Keefe has to tuck in behind Tony D'Alberto. That's for the battle for the last spot on the podium. This is 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th under the blanket as they exit turn number 4 and head up the hill. For the last time here at Sandown International Raceway, you can't go 4 wide up over the top, can you? As Tony D'Alberto is in all sorts of trouble here. Dylan O'Keefe tucked right up under his rear wing. Vodanovic will be just about finished here as Jay Hansen moves on. D'Alberto warning this podium. He's fighting to keep them at bay. Ben Barguana keeping Dylan O'Keefe honest. Through the final couple of corners, he nearly got it done in the second race of the Sim Racing Series. We haven't had a Kiwi breakthrough for a win, but round 10 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series goes to Peter Vodanovic. Great job from him. He would have been kicking himself after he had that race win in the bag at Albert Park. It took him 5 more events, or 4 more events, I should say, to get the win done. But great to see a new winner up on the boards for the Car Sales TCR Australia and New Zealand Sim Racing Series.
And something happened to Ben Barguana there in the last couple of corners, because he fell back to 7th position there at the checkered flag. Zach Souter and Brock Timperley both managed to get past Bargs Jr., so he got shuffled back down the order. Hansen comes home in 2nd, ahead of Tony D'Alberto. Dylan O'Keefe finishing in 4th, back then to Brock Timperley, Zach Souter. Ben Barguana in 7th, Chelsea Angelo and Luke King in positions 8 and 9 respectively. Rowan Shepard way back in 10th position, and John Martin, unfortunately, a retirement after that massive crash that we saw at the end of the back straight.
Well, Lockie, that was a great race, and Vodanovic got it done in the end, had a good gap back there, but geez, wasn't the battle great for 2nd, 3rd and 4th?
That was an absolute belter, and really, really classy driving, particularly for Barguana and O'Keefe to come charging up through the field and to be punching out some really fast lap times there towards the end. But a textbook performance from Peter Vodanovic, making the most of the track position and setting fast and consistent lap times. It becomes our 5th different race winner for the Car Sales TCR Australia Series.
Yeah, it's a wonderful result from him. We'll have a chat to each of our race winners at the end of this. Lockie, in terms of our series contenders, John Martin had a bad night tonight, and it looks like with 2 events remaining, we've got a challenge really shaping up now between Dylan O'Keefe and also Ben Bargwanna.
Indeed, John Martin was 32 points off the championship lead coming into tonight, but with the way the results have played out and the fact that John Martin's had a couple of shockers, it really is now a 2-horse race. It would take some disastrous results for both O'Keefe and Bargwanna for Martin to get back into the mix at this point.
Well, the official results are up on the screen, and thank you for everyone joining in with us. 50% of the race wins we've seen so far in the Carsale TCR Australia Sim Racing Series go to this man, Dylan O'Keefe. Congratulations. You said you wanted to get at least one race win at every track. We've only got 2 events to go, mate, and you've got it done so far.
Yeah, keeping the streak alive. So that was good fun, and that was a big motivator going into that first race because, to be honest, I think we saw that I probably wasn't the fastest car tonight. Ben was definitely quick, and that lap in qualifying was, outstanding from him. And I knew if I didn't get him off the start, it was going to be very difficult. But the start of that first race, he just had no pace. So I got past him pretty quickly, and then towards the end, he was keeping me honest. So that first race was fun, and then as we see in the second race, it's in the mid-pack there, it's a big drama. So it's pass or be passed.
Really struggled to get past Brock Timperley as well. Can you take us through what was going on there? Because you just could not find a way past.
Yeah, it's extremely difficult because what happened was I was just fighting with Bargs back and forth, just for track position. And then you come up to another car, and if you don't pass them straight away, you're stuck there. So these cars are extremely good under brakes. And Sandown's a difficult one to get the move done too. So a lot of fun in that second race, actually. We were complimenting each other at the end of that one, saying good job, because to follow in these cars is quite tricky on this game. But we did well in the last one.
Let's talk about that key rival of yours, the chief combatant, and he is our Astron Tech qualifying superstar in Ben Bargwanna. And with John Martin having a terrible night in terms of points haul, it looks like with 2 rounds or 2 events to go, you have a battle on your hands here still. You've got 4 more races, and Ben Bargwanna hot on your heels. Yeah,
for sure. So Ben's keeping me honest. He's done a fantastic job. It'll go down to the wire, and both of us will want to win it for GRM, so it should be interesting. But Ben's doing a ripper job, and I saw Martin didn't have a great round. I think he must rage quit, so gets spun and then just jumps off and has enough. So, and you can see that during the race. Like if he's behind you, you're actually sweating because you know he's so aggressive. Even in real life, he takes some risks, and it pays off sometimes for him because he's bloody quick. But yeah, in the sim world, if you spin, it's a bit frustrating because you can't catch back up.
Well, Dylan O'Keefe, we'll let you go, mate. As I said, 50% of the race wins so far have gone to you. Congratulations.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
And now let's turn our attention to the first race winner. It was his first win anyway, and he's our 5th different winner in the Carsales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. Peter Vodanovic, firstly, congratulations and welcome to the winning club. All right, sounds like there you are, Pete. We got you now, mate. Congratulations, well done, 5th different winner, and you've got your first one done for the Sim Racing Series so far. So congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. I had to run onto my laptop because my sim mic wasn't working, but no, it was an awesome race. Fortunately, I didn't have too much to worry about, so I could just keep my eyes forward and focus on doing some good laps. So no, really happy.
It's been great to have you as part of the Carsales TCR Australia and New Zealand Sim Racing Series. Here you go, mate, as well. You're the first Kiwi winner in the series so far. That must be proud for the home country over there. And, geez, aren't you in paradise without the dramas we're seeing in Australia right now?
Yeah, we're quite lucky here in New Zealand. Obviously, we can race on the track now as well. I'm hoping to get my last round in the 86 series done soon, but no, it's really cool to get the first one for the Kiwis here, and happy to have racing sims supporting me. So no, it was good.
Now, mate, the last question I wanted to have with you was Albert Park. I'm going to take you back there to the first event of the year. You look like you had a race win underway, and I wanted to chat to you about it. What happened down into turn 1?
Oh yeah, I think just I'm not on the best sim at the moment, to be honest. But no, I won't make any excuses. I think I just made a mistake there. Yeah, I have Racing Sims as a sponsor, which is pretty cool. They manufacture their simulators here in New Zealand, but at the moment that hasn't arrived yet. So I'm just on a kitchen chair and old steering wheel and stuff like that. So really looking forward to the new simulator when it comes, hopefully for the next round. So yeah, all is good.
Well, mate, well done. Get that kitchen chair up on eBay. That's got to be the fastest sim racing kitchen chair going around, mate. Congratulations. Fifth different winner in our series so far this year, and also the first Kiwi winner this year. Congratulations.
Thanks heaps. Thank you.
Well, that wraps up our coverage. That was races or rounds 9 and 10 of the Car Sales TCR Australia and New Zealand Sim Racing Series. Thank you to Car Sales, Astron Tech, and also Total. Thanks to our producers over in Italy. Thanks to Lachlan Ladies Man Mansell, the man with the best nickname in motorsport, Grant Rowley and Parked Up. And make sure you clarify that one, rectify that on your next podcast. In the meantime, thank you to all of our viewers from all over the world, all over Australia. And hope for those of you that are locked up in Melbourne, stay safe, guys, and look after yourselves. And we'll see you at the next round at Adelaide. I'm looking forward to that one.